Guys, I'm weighing in because I know the last couple videos that I've posted on Instagram, I think one of them might have gone on YouTube. It was a clip from my most recent solo podcast, but like I'm getting the feedback that they're a little bit harsh, which is not feedback that I'm unfamiliar with. And I want to be clear because I'm all for free will, right? So I'm not jumping on the the pronoun psyop in terms of pronoun signatures and Zoom stuff just to shame people and make them feel shitty for acting of their own free will, because they're not acting of their own free will. They're under the spell of group mind and they're not thinking, right? They're just acting on this group mind impulse to belong. But the real reason why I'm speaking to these things is because we're in a war. This is absolutely a culture war, a war on language, a war on words. And so when people are like, well, why can't you just let it slide, right? Like, what's the big deal? It's like every instance is a battle on the battlefield. And I see so many people just like surrendering or bowing out, or like, I'd rather keep the peace than stand up. And it's annoying to me because I don't want to be the police for the censorship of the policing, right? Like, it was really uncomfortable for me in the Gene Keys sphere to speak out and be like, yeah, I'm not okay with this language policing. And I just got off of a podcast with Richard, which is going to come out in a couple weeks. And like, we went head to head. Like, that wasn't a comfortable conversation. It wasn't comfortable for me to stand up to my teacher. And when he, gave me his response, to be like, no, that actually doesn't work for me. And to hold the line on freedom of speech. And I understand that not everyone is framing it. Not everyone is seeing this as a culture war. People are thinking like, oh, I'm just being kind, I'm being inclusive. And it's like, no, what you're doing is you're surrendering the linguistic territory. Like, and this is what Jordan Peterson says, and one of my favorite things that he says is, I will not cede the linguistic territory. So every time someone comes at me, either trying to police my own language or trying to censor me or trying to police the space to keep everyone safe, that is an encroachment upon the linguistic territory. And look, you have free will, you can do whatever you want. I am not going to cede the linguistic territory. And that's not a personal thing. It's not like, oh, it's so fun for me to play this game. It's like, I'm trying to safeguard freedom of speech, and I'm trying to stave off this complete dictatorial, tyrannical, communist takeover that is slipping in through the language, through the culture, through inclusivity, through all of those things. And same goes with the AI stuff, right? And the social engineering around increased automation. It's like, this is a moment-to-moment battle. And so as much as my friends are embarrassed when we go out to restaurants and I say, no, I'm going to need a printed check and some privacy, please, thank you so much. It's like, every time we acquiesce, we lose more and more territory, and the tyrants are winning. And the tyrants are not the people who are trying to just be accepted. The tyrants are the people behind the scenes who have deployed this huge indoctrination propaganda scam on all of us. But it's like, why I get annoyed when people just acquiesce moment to moment to moment. It's like another battle lost. That's more territory gained for the fucktards. And we don't have, like, we've been backed. We're back. Our backs are against the wall, guys. Like, there's not much further we can go until it's full-fledged enslavement tyranny. And it's tricky territory, because I would say the vast majority of the people who are following orders, who are doing the on the ground work for the fucktards, who are deliberately trying to take away our freedoms, they don't realize that and like, it's coming from a sweet place. Like, they don't want people to feel excluded. They don't want people to get hurt. Like, I get that. I do get that. I'm not a mean person. I'm not an evil person. I don't like seeing people in pain, but I'm not willing to surrender freedom in exchange for other people's unintegrated trauma that is expressing as pain. Now, I am never for directly being mean, for using language that is going to try deliberately to hurt someone. That's cruelty. I'm not down with that. But like, let's go back to the instance of my improv class when I'm in a scene and my character says ballet is faggy and someone's feelings get hurt. That's not my fucking problem. That's some serious unintegrated trauma that's being projected onto something that really has nothing to do with them. But again, remembering the narcissism of victimhood as a telltale sign, if someone chooses to make it about them, then they're going to need to deal with that on their own until they learn to integrate that trauma. If I kowtow to that, and I enable that trauma and I say, okay, I'm never going to use those words again so you don't have hurt feelings again. I've just done that person a disservice and enabled their trauma driving their ship. And this is what, like, and this was my frustration in the whole Gene Keys thing, which I just fleshed out with Richard on the podcast, was like, what about tricksters? What about those of us who are wired to trigger other people? Like, it's taken me so many decades to get comfortable with who I am, how I'm wired, and knowing I'm not for everyone. And people are going to be triggered around me, and some people are going to project their unintegrated trauma on me and shit talk me and unfriend me and blame me. And I'm okay with that because I'm playing the cards I'm dealt, and I'm playing them with a huge heart, and I'm playing them with integrity and with innocence, and I'm learning as I go, right? You guys always hear me. I'm refining as I go. But if we outlaw triggering, if we outlaw the type of language that triggers, how are any of us going to grow? It's a one-room schoolhouse. Some people are racist. Some people are authentically racist, and that has to be okay so that they can have the time and space to go through their own transformational process and authentically transmute it, right? The only way we transmute our triggers is to get fucking triggered, right? Otherwise, we don't know they're there. So this whole inclusivity thing in the Gene Keys to me was like, you're telling me to, and there are no direct orders. I want to be clear. And Richard was like, we're not telling you not to do anything. I'm like, okay, but if I'm being encouraged to avoid certain languaging so other people don't get triggered, then how are they going to clue in to the unintegrated traumas and hurts and stories and erroneous belief systems that are inviting their rewriting and their integration so that they're stronger and unfazed by something as simple as language? So that's my perspective on it. But just in terms of the larger culture war, I want us to start thinking of this, like, for those of us who understand what's going on. Like, my words are not going to be absorbed and embraced by people who don't know what's going on, right? So there's grace. It's not a pass that I'm giving these people, but there's grace for people who just think that they're doing the right thing. But I'm talking to the people who know better, and I'm talking to the people who know that we are in a culture war and that we are in a language war. And every time we cede the linguistic territory to kowtow to someone's victim story or unintegrated trauma, we are losing. We are giving more power and more success and triumph to the fucktards who want us enslaved and or dead. It is one or the other. So every time, if I choose to acquiesce to some automated bullshit, then I'm giving them more and more territory. And there's a finite amount of territory. This isn't infinite, right? It's either freedom or tyranny. And every time we give up some of our freedom to kowtow to group mind, tyranny gets stronger and bigger. And I want us to start seeing it from this perspective as a means of fueling our courage. Again, I don't like getting flipped out about fucking pronouns, but the pronoun thing is a psyop that was put in place by the nefarious fucktards behind the scenes. It's not occurring of its own organic accord. This is being engineered, and we can't keep surrendering the territory, or there's not going to be any territory left to surrender. And when I say territory, I mean freedom. So for those of us who know better, it is time to get over people pleasing. It is time to get over not wanting to rock the boat. It is time to get over not wanting to be unliked. The stakes are too fucking high. And if there were more of us who were standing up to shit like this, A, this would be done, and B, on a personal level, it take a lot of pressure off of me being the only squeaky wheel in so many circumstances and setups. So again, it's not, I don't want to be in these conversations and I don't want to be micromanaging this bullshit, but I want us to start seeing this as a territory war. And every time you swallow your truth and you choose not to stand up for freedom, just straight up across the board, then tyranny is getting more and more land, space, a stronghold on our culture. That is why I'm speaking out the way that I am. And that is why, for me personally, I have so much emotion behind it, because I'm always a big, like, I see macro, right? I see the larger structure and I see it well before anyone sees it. Not anyone, plenty of people see it, but like, this is why I was speaking out about this stuff way back in 2012, where I was like, guys, this is really dangerous. If we acquiesce to this now, this is going in a bad direction. And I've been saying this, broken record, for 10 years now, and look where we're at. So it is my preference to not talk about this shit at all ever again, but I'm concerned for how little chances it seems like we have left to safeguard our freedom. There's no longer time and space for those who know better to acquiesce, to appease the undeveloped comfort zones and undeveloped emotional, like the stunted emotional unintelligence of those who are playing the victim. Now's not the time for that. And I'm sorry, it's like, you know, I never mean to hurt people, but just take the instance of my improv class. If the teachers had had my back and said, like, I'm sorry that you're hurt and I can see that that's real, but this is improv class and it might not be the right place for you because this is how we play here, that would have safeguarded more freedom. That would have been the right thing to do from like a business perspective, from like a larger container holding perspective. You know, and I don't want, there's no need to bring up the details of that story, but it's just like every time we acquiesce because, you know, it's like, think of the child who like keeps throwing tantrums and the parents who just keep buying them stuff or giving them candy because they don't want to deal with the kid's tantrum. That's not actually good parenting. And I think we all know that's not good parenting, because that's not teaching the child, A, to cultivate the tools necessary to self-regulate and not be a spoiled fucking brat. And just like guiding a well-rounded, like confident, emotionally intelligent human. That's a shortcut because like I don't want to deal with my kids' emotional reaction, so I'm just going to give them what they want. That's what we're seeing happening on a large scale. And I'm excited for more of us to hold our ground and hold people to stand into their emotional maturity and to trust that people can cultivate the tools to handle triggers if we hold them to a higher standard instead of continuing to lower our own standards to kowtow to victim consciousness because we just don't want to be bothered. You know, collective freedom be damned. So just wanted to share this caveat with us. Thanks for standing for freedom so we could get to the other side and then even out the conversation. But right now, like, it's gone too far and it's time for us to really, really hold our ground.